Happy Friday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Another episode of You Gotta Be Sha Tin Me. I am joined, as always, by Matt. I like to hit pick three, Carlson. Matt,
we hit one. We got one,
yeah,
baby.
we finally, man. I finally. It's about time, dude. I'll be honest, man. On the Wrong Lead has been hot. Obviously on the live stream last week, Mark and I definitely. I'm already forgetting. Was it Cabo Spirit? We gave out Cabo Spirit, and somehow Caleb got credit for it. I was looking in Discord in the Reddit Discord, so, yeah, and someone shout out Caleb for the great call on Cabo Spirit when both Mark and I were on him. Caleb did end up using
Caleb. The fans love Caleb. All right, Caleb is it's.
I mean, who doesn't? But yeah, he somehow. I mean, he had the horse, but he wasn't as vocal, I believe, as Mark and I on that one. But Mark ends up hitting that pick 5 for a couple grand, I think. I forgot what that late pick 5 paid at Santa Anita, but
pretty well though.
Yeah. And then Andrew Champagne gave out the turf pick 3 at Keeneland today, and that paid, I think, about $800 something like that.
Just under 800, I think 790 or something like that. So
yeah, so that was, and it was a pretty nice ticket. I think it was like $45, so that's a pretty good return on your investment there. Yeah, I had the first leg, but unfortunately I did not have the other two, and the first leg was kind of the hard one to have. I think that was the Frankie Dettori horse. I think it paid like, was it $12, $14 or something?
Yeah, I think you got 6-1 on that 9. So yeah.
So that was nice, but yeah, Andrew was able to put all 3 races together, and he had a nice little pick 4 too with one of his favorite horses winning that dirt race in between. So he cashed the pick 4, cashed the pick 3. Congrats to him. Obviously, you had the pick 3 last week, so we got big shoes to fill. Obviously, there was a live stream in between this where we covered the all stakes pick 5 at Keeneland, which I thought was a very daunting sequence. I did see that you completely mushed me today, and the one bet I made all day, where you also joined in, and I thought you were retired. So I appreciate you coming out of retirement just to mush me one last time. So
look, AM Wager is offering Keeneland win bonuses, and also they're offering the Hong Kong win bonus this week. So if you're betting Hong Kong and go on AM Wager, shout out AM Wager for offering bonus money.
AMWager.com/OTWL or On the Wrong Lead. There's a link in the bottom.
So my justification is, if I am building that bankroll, AM Wager is where I play my Hong Kong wagers. So if I am using their bonuses to pad my Hong Kong bankroll, that counts as international racing. That doesn't count as domestic racing anymore. So there you go.
I'll allow it. But yeah, just things are going well. Hopefully I cash something here sometime soon, because I was reminded, obviously one of the horses I liked at Keeneland was the horse I left off my pick 5 at Saratoga. There was the last horse I cut that would have paid about $8,000, and that would have forgiven a lot of sins if I would have had that one. But we continue on, and yeah, we have an interesting late pick 3 here at Sha Tin. It's not every day that a pick 3 at Sha Tin, a late pick 3 in particular, ends in an all-weather race. And Matt, we frequently meme that, of course, we try and pick one race to kind of handicap, and the last couple of weeks, we've kind of ended up on dirt races, but yeah,
not successfily either, I don't think so. Let that be a lesson. But
no,
fair warning in advance. But
yeah, it's been the best bets have not really helped, but yeah, we talked a little bit about the sequence, not necessarily the best late pick 3 sequence that we've ever handicapped, albeit there's some pretty good horses actually in here, and it's just kind of let's just say interesting spots for a couple of them. So Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, kind of where you end up these races, and um, yeah,
Yes, yeah.
um,
We are professionals. We do not discuss each other's picks before this. We do about 45 seconds of preparation, which is to see if our mics are unmuted, and that's about it. So we'll find out.
yeah. Well, I mean, I
Doing it
don't know.
live.
I think it's a little fun. It's a little fun to kind of,
No, it is for sure.
but yeah. Let's jump right in here to race 8. Um, as I pull my professional once again and make sure I'm on the right race here on my PPs. And race 8 is going to be a 7 furlong, the unicorn distance, as I show the incorrect screen here. Oh, goodness. Word to the wise. I did have a work happy hour prior to this, and uh, coming in a little hot here, but 4 old fashions deep, and I got myself a nice pour of whiskey. So shout out to the manager that paid for one of my drinks, and I made sure to get a burger. So hey, we're not doing this on an empty stomach. But race 8, Peck Tom Owl Handicap, I guess. And we're going to be going the unicorn distance, the 7 furlong, 1,400 meters. We got class 4 racing here. And yeah, I thought the 5 Sky Trust was probably the horse in this race that kind of had the best resume coming in here. You know, I took a second pass at it, and I think, the 2 Sugar Ball definitely is one that's kind of definitely improved, kind of steadily here the last couple races. The kind of question mark for Sugar Ball is, he's kind of improved at the 6 furlong distance, and now he's coming back to 7 furlongs where he hasn't necessarily run well, but he does get probably the biggest switch, which is he gets Zach Purton aboard. He gets a good draw once again, and he seemed to relish being on the inside last time out with the rail draw with the win there. So the 2 Sugar Ball is gonna make my tickets, but I thought the 5 Sky Trust is probably the one I want the most of in here. Hugh Bowman stays aboard for the third straight time. He won at 7 furlongs, and kind of if you look at those 7 furlong races of the last 4, those are all pretty good races. Obviously, won by a half length last race at 7, um, and then 2 back finished third by half a length, and so he's right there. And then you kind of got that Happy Valley mile race kind of in between there, and I just don't know. Like I look at those PPs, and that just looks like a horse that went a little too far, right? Made that move, going to the stretch, is ahead by a neck, and then fades to third by 2 lengths. So, I think the cutback is going to help here for Sky Trust, and is going to be my top pick. Not too concerned about being posted out in the 9 post. I think he's run just fine coming out of like the 7 post. So we're not going to be too concerned, but I'll have a little bit of the 2, and then the other horse I'm going to use is going to be the 1 run timing. And this is kind of another one. You kind of cross a line through that race, last race where they were going 6 furlongs, had the bug aboard, and you know I think we've talked about it. Brittany Wong is basically only won, I think, 1 or 2 races so far, and they've all been on the front end. So kind of maybe cross a line through that one. Maybe it was just going a little too short. Is coming back to the 7 furlong distance where he's run okay. Maybe a little bit concerned about still carrying all that weight, at the 135 pounds. Maybe that was the idea last time, putting Brittany Wong aboard to, get that 10-pound allowance. Horse ran fine, but I definitely think if you look through the PPs, a horse definitely liked a little bit more distance. So I think the extra furlong's actually going to help here. I'd like to see that Bentley's getting back aboard here. So yeah, I got run timing as a B in here. I'll be using Sugar Ball in some way, shape, or form. But the 5 Sky Trust is going to be my top pick here. Matt, where did you kind of land?
Yeah, actually, really similar. I do think this is kind of a tough race because I have no idea what the pace scenario is going to be like in
Mm-hmm.
here. I think you look at speed map, and I think it even said the 13 was going to be on the lead and maybe even a lone lead, but I don't see that at all. I mean, that horse has never sniffed a lead in its life, so to say, hey, all of a sudden that's going to be your lone speed in here,
I mean,
especially
they
with
just
Brittany Wong
like
up.
Brittany Wong's up. Like that's the
Yeah,
plan.
I
Like
guess with the bug, right? And I mean, look, that's a lot of weight, but I think for a lot of the same reasons, right? I used both the 1 and the 5. I think the 5 theoretically could get a lead in here. It's coming off a bit of a layoff. I do like layoffs generally in Hong Kong, right? It's not a huge layoff.
layoffs, layoffs. That was
It's
probably a real bad. I forgot who's the
Jim
coach. I already
Mara. Is
forgot.
that
Yeah,
it?
Jim.
Is
Yeah,
that
I think I was supposed to be. It
yeah?
was supposed to be a Jim Moore
Somewhere, yeah,
reference
yeah,
there,
yeah, yeah,
but
more. There you go. So, I do like Sky Trust. I think that horse is as likely to get a lead as any in here. And like I said, I mean, horses kind of coming off a little bit of a break. I think tend to run really well. Uh, Same with run timing, right? If you actually watch the replay, I don't know if you watched that replay or not, but you're spot on either way. Like the ride that Brittany Wong gave was just not a great one. She kind of over raced the horse. She was 4 wide. She tried to press a pretty fast pace outside 4 wide and just kind of stayed in that path. And the horse actually runs really well. It actually kind of stays on best as it can, but it covered way too much ground. I know like ground loss is something that is a statistic they don't publish all that much, but watching replays, you can kind of infer that that horse, it says tough trip. It was a jockey induced tough trip. It was not a horse induced, like got stuck anywhere tough trip. So, like you are kind of happy to see Bentley back aboard that one because I do think Brittany Wong has a little bit of ways to go to kind of learn the ropes of not gunning it 4 wide here. I mean, just ground loss will kill you. The only other horse that I'll use, I'll go to the other layoff angle because really nothing in here excites me all that much, right? I don't think there's any horse to me that stands out a ton. I'll use the 11 Lucky Fion. I think that's the only other horse that feasibly I could say, hey, it's the last race was in April, so it's coming off almost a 6 month layoff now. Hasn't shown too much, but I think if for anyone who watched Tuesday's racing, and I did horrific on Tuesday for National Day. But the big price of that day was a horse in Draw Big Banner who had about a similar layoff, right? It was coming off of about a 6 months, and that horse had never really showed too much ability to stay on. And all of a sudden, it comes back out there and outruns a lot of really good horses at a big price. I do think similar could even happen here, right? You don't know what that horse is going to do, but I think it was steadily improving up to April. I don't think it's unfeasible that that horse can kind of continue on that trajectory, and if it moves even a little bit forward and lost to some pretty good horses. If you look at kind of its run lines there, it could be the top of this field at a decent price for showing something that's not even close on paper. So those are the 3 that I'll use: the 1 and the 5 like you, and I'll toss in the 11 Lucky Fion as well, and just try to kind of get through this one.
all right. We'll move on to race 9 here. Saiwan Shan handicap. We got class 3 racing, 1,200 meters, 6 furlongs. And yeah, man, I used 2 horses here, but I'm interested to see where you kind of landed.
Probably the same, right? I think it's hard to get around Devano here. That horse is kind of been on the steady improve. Zach's back aboard, right? If you look, the reason Zach wasn't on last time was that it actually won on the other horse that has been a very good Class 3 horse, bottom up together. That's the other horse that won last time. And so, look, that horse has beaten Master Mastermind, who came back to win already. It's kept really good company, and so it's hard to get around that one. And so I think I'd probably use that as a lone A. There's a couple question marks in here that I just think probably aren't worth using, right? I know, on the screen you can kind of see you're using Lady's Choice. I was going to use that one, and I don't know. I just think there's enough pace signed on, and that horse has kind of gotten stuck a little bit where it is. If you look at the horse has kind of been at the same weight, running the same kind of race, finishing second, third, second. And when you see that happening, it's tough because you never move down in weight and you never move up in weight. And if you're not good enough to win a race, but you can kind of consistently hit the board, you just kind of keep doing that, right? You never get any advantage or any disadvantage, and you just kind of keep putzing along. So to me, that's one that horses like that tend to take too much money, I think, to me, because they're good hit the board candidates. They're good, Quinella and Exacta plays, but to me, from a win line, probably don't give that value. Same with the 1. I mean, the 1 is the horse that I kind of just talked about layoffs, and that horse has had a couple long layoffs. To me, that's probably a sign that you don't want to use it, right? If you have raced once in the past year or so, like it raced in December 23, it raced in April 24, and now it's finally back. seeing a couple 6 months layoffs like that, that's probably not a great sign that that horse is in good form. I think, it's going to at least need a race if it does have ability, or worst case, may still even be nursing an injury and you'll see it again in 6 months again. So the 5 is where I'll go. The only other horse that I squinted really hard to use was the 13, Sky Forever. This is just one of those plays where I think if a race completely falls apart, right, if it melts up front or, has anything, obviously this horse has been running on all weather recently, hasn't really shown much, but it's at least past horses. And you can't say that about a lot of horses in this field. If you go back to its turf races, you can kind of see it sitting at the back and at least kind of running by a few. And hey, lowest weight, lowest draw, ability to pass. If I think a lot of pace is signed on, there's worse place to be. So I'll toss that one in as a B, just in case, as a probably a very very huge price, because I don't think this horse is going to take an ounce of money, right? I mean, you're talking probably in the 30 to 40 to 1 on this one. So if that hits, you can you know hopefully get some payment out of it. But yeah, mostly through the 5, probably like everybody else is going to bet this one.
Yeah, and I don't know what your figures are showing, but I think the 13 has run all weather races that are fast enough to win. What?
Yeah, I never pay too much credence to it, right? I mean, especially
Yeah,
for all weather. I think, you know, I don't even try to translate the figures over, just because I think they're two completely different,
yeah,
different services, different everything. So, yeah, they look fast enough. Yeah, it's looked better on Sha Tin Dirt, right? I mean, honestly, its worst races probably look at the Sha Tin one turn races it's run in its life. But hey, this is just really a stab in the dark at a huge price. So,
yeah. I'm kind of curious about like if the pace scenario was a little bit different in this race, I actually would probably give a look to the 8 King of Dubai here. It
yeah.
looks like he's been trialing pretty well, and he basically won. One, I think it was like a no, a 6 furlong trial race, basically under a hold the entire way, and basically went wire to wire. But I think he's kind of a keen horse. I think he's going to want to be up front a little bit. And same thing, right? I think if we've talked about Brittany Wong already a little bit, but if the two Hong Kong Hall, if he was drawn in the one post or two post, I think that'd be another one I'd kind of give a look at, just because I think at least from what we've seen of Brittany Wong, we want her on the lead and to get out there nice and clean. And I do think this is a horse that does have a bit of speed. Obviously, you look at the all weather races, but drawn out in the parking lot. So I think the pace gets a little. I don't want to say like murky. I think there's definitely front runners here. I think Devano though is tactical enough that I think it doesn't really matter. I think obviously his two wins were on the lead, but um, the last race was able to pass 5 horses. I mean, didn't make up a ton of ground, but was able to pass some tired horses there, and um, Zach gets aboard here, so I think Zach will keep this horse in a good spot. Yeah, we talked. You talked a little bit about the six ladies choice. Was just kind of another one who I think has been I don't want to say snake bitten, but I think has been a little unlucky. You kind of you're going like 4 back with Zach aboard, gets the dream rail draw, and then kind of gets not able to get out of the gate. I think as well as he wanted to, and I mean still broke out well, but when you kind of get forward like that and then you kind of fade a little bit, you see the trouble early, you're like, well, how much did that trouble early kind of affect you? So the next race obviously lost, unlucky to lose by a neck there to Solid Impact, was a great price there with Karis Teton getting the board again. And yeah, like I don't know. I think has been running into some pretty good horses here. Full credit once again. Didn't really get bet down all that much, and goes to Happy Valley. And we've talked about this numerous times. There's Happy Valley horses, there's Sha Tin horses. He goes to Happy Valley and just doesn't really run all that well. So I'll kind of forgive that one, and I'll give him another shot here. I'm using as a B. I mean, it's probably going to be your second choice here. I assume Devano is probably going to be maybe not odds on, but I would think maybe 7 to 5, 8 to 5 ish in this field. And Lady's Choice will probably end up around that 4 to 1, 3 to 1 range here. But yeah, I didn't get too creative. Um, I think you talked a little bit about the one Mighty Stride. Might be one that I kind of give another look at, especially if we think that Brittany Wong is going to try and really send from that 12 post. Because I think if that does happen, you're going to have a lot of pace signed on here. And you talked about the 13 being a horse that's closed. The only way that Mighty Stride won was with a pretty pretty brisk pace there, especially that kind of like third fraction was pretty fast. So um, the yeah, I think Mighty Stride could possibly get a setup here. Um, Obviously, it's carrying 20 more pounds than last time, but has run at this distance 4 times and has won twice, finished second twice. So the cutback here might be good. So that might be another one that you kind of add on your tickets. I'm curious what price you get, but like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if I just named you like the top three choices here, and um, Devano could win for fun here. So I thought this was kind of a tough race in that I kind of thought the top three choices probably looked clear of everybody, and that's sometimes kind of tough to make money off of it. But hey, if we were gonna just try and survive in advance here, I'd probably use those three. And in race 10, the aforementioned all weather track, just the bane of our existence apparently on this podcast. Class 2 racing. We're going to be going just over a mile here. The Nam Longshan Handicap. And at first look, I landed on two horses. And then I looked again and I used I had two other horses that kind of, I have question marks next to it. So I'm a little curious what you kind of thought. But we did talk briefly in our 25 seconds of production meeting there. That we thought you thought this race was pretty tough and you were gonna have to spread.
Yeah, I mean, if this were a turf race, this would be a fantastic race, right? I mean,
Mhm.
this is class 2 and there's obviously a lot of really good horses in here. The problem is I don't half of them haven't ever raced on all weather. So who
Yep.
knows, right? You have no idea how they're going to take to this if they even want to take to this. So it's an interesting race for sure. But who
Yeah, I mean,
knows?
I landed it once again. What's probably gonna be your likely favorite, the five, Adafil here.
Yep.
Um, you know, I I think the jury's out. This is an all weather horse, so um, they ran him at Happy Valley, and I don't know, maybe that was just a way to kind of get a little bit of a weight break for this horse. Had at some points been carrying 130 plus pounds. Um, won a race at carrying 119, and then they're like, "Hey, why don't we run on the turf where we haven't run necessarily well?" And he finished up the track, so kind of comes back here, back on his I think preferred surface, preferred distance, preferred track. I think he's going to be tough to beat, but for all the Brittany Wong talk we had before, um, Telecom Fighters has got some speed, and I I do think that especially on the dirt, I like a horse that's going to get out to the lead. I mean, I think Telecom Fighters is your likely leader. I would like a lot more, once again, as we mentioned before, if this horse was drawn in the 1 to 3 post and not the 13 post. So we've seen it before where the jocks know, and maybe they float Brittany wide for a little bit and make it really hard for telecom fighters to get there on the lead. Um, but you kind of go back to the last all weather race, and the notes basically say soft lead and got caught. So I mean, maybe that still happens here, but I think you're gonna get a decent price, I think, on the 4 telecom fighters here. Um, and those are like the 2 dirt horses, right? I ended up writing 2 other horses I'm interested in, and the 9 Kaiying Generation, who I think I've gave out on this podcast at some point, and I think another horse I've given out on this podcast is 2 Sword Point, and Sword Point is one that has not run on the all weather track. Now, obviously, by American Pharaoh, who at least in America, we've seen be much more successful on the turf, but has had a couple of decent dirt runners. So fine running on either surface. Has got a better draw than the 4 telecom fighters, and has shown speed, albeit route speed. So I'm curious about the cutback. I mean, last time out at Sha Tin did go that mile distance, was kind of drawn out wide, but very, very forwardly placed, pretty aggressive. So maybe there could be a world where maybe the 2 Sword Point maybe gets on the lead. If not, maybe gets a nice trip, sitting just behind the 4 telecom fighters. So I thought Sword Point had a chance to maybe trip out here. I think he's a pretty decent horse. Obviously, he's been running in group races. So I don't know if this is just like trying to pick up a check, like kind of what's going on here. But you're trying the all weather for the first time here with the 2 Sword Point. I mean, maybe this is just, hey, we just want a paid workout, get this horse out there, and maybe drop the rating so he can run in even easier, class 2 racing. I'm not really sure, but I'll probably end up using him in some way, shape, or form here. And then the 9 Kaiying Generation, um, I think is one that, if he breaks well, has shown to be a pretty nice horse. Um, I think maybe they bit off a little bit more than they could chew, kind of going those restricted 4-year-old races and then group racing. After winning a kind of a class 3 race, so I think that was it was kind of aggressive. I mean, did run decent in one of those restricted 4-year-old races, albeit going the 2,000 meters there, and kind of getting on the lead at 40 to 1, and finishing a nice third by 3/4 of the length to a nice horse in Massive Sovereign. So um, gets the jock switch to Zach, but if if there were if there were any holes in Purton's armor, it might be the all weather track. I think he's just okay. He's just another guy when it comes to the all weather track. He probably win. And I'm spitballing here, man. I'm sure you got the stats up.
I
My
do.
guess is he wins at like 12% on the all weather, where he wins at like 30% on the turf. So I mean, he's good, but he's not Zach Purton on the dirt as much as he is. But you can fact check me on that. But I do think that Kaiying Generation was at least a little bit. He's a good horse in this race, and in a race that I don't think has a lot of dirt horses. Like I think he makes a little bit of sense here. So um, I'm most interested in the 2 dirt horses, the 5 and the 4, but I'll have a little bit of the 2 as well as the 9 on my tickets.
So I'm happy here because you're playing into my stats angles.
Mm,
Um, so I have Zach in the past 365 days, so the last calendar year from this card, on the dirt on at 1650. So that's basically every race that he's run on this configuration over the past 365 days. So back to like last October. And my stats have him at a whopping 1 for 22. So he is a
mm,
4% rider on this configuration, meaning he is below average. amongst any other jockey. Now, granted, there's not a lot of Class 2 1650 dirt races. This might be the only one all year. So, take that with a grain of salt, right? A lot of the horses that he's on probably aren't great. And I think a lot of dirt racing here, horses aren't built for it. There's very few horses that are, want the dirt. So, stats kind of get thrown out the window a little bit. But it stuck out to me at least that it's like, hey, he's not moving those horses forward because he's a 4% jock, right? And a lot of 4% jocks in here. So, take that as you will. But I do think if you're going to pay a tax and sometimes it's warranted, maybe this isn't the spot to do it. So to me, Kaying Generation is one that I'll probably want to avoid. And, I'll probably pay a lot of B's in here, just anyone that has ever passed a horse. I do think speed will probably break down because I do think a lot of these horses are going to send. But, I think take some shots otherwise just underneath. And, I still have to work through all of those. But I might be, for my B's 6 or 7 wide in here, and I don't know who those are. So if you have any good opinions, hey, post them to me. Reply when I post on Twitter. Tell me who to bet, and I'll probably include it in this one. I agree with you on Adafil. I think that's the standout dirt horse in here. The other dirt horse or a horse that I thought would take the dirt or has shown some promise on dirt or shown some ability on dirt rather, was the 8 Berlin Tango, right? And that horse is 2 wins on the all weather. 2 out of its 3 wins are actually on the all weather. I think Brett Abdullah is just as good or bad as any other jockey on the surface. And it does have the one draw, which I think is the advantage draw, right? Draw doesn't matter as much on the dirt, but if you want one, I think, the rail's where you want to be on it. So, um, the 5 and the 8, I think, are the 2 A's that I'll use. And then probably a fair number of B's because, like I said, there's some really good horses in here. And, I think the really, really good ones probably surface doesn't even matter all that much. So I still have to sift through what those B's are going to be, but it'll be wide and not with a lot of logic and maybe some price watching in there based on kind of the tote. But I'll probably avoid Brittany Wong in here. I'll probably avoid Zach in here, and then maybe the rest of them are even fair game. I think you could probably snag a decent price just based on based on the field and based on a lot of the unknowns in here. So yeah, go kind of skinny in that second leg, but try and catch a price on the third one if you think Zach will take more money than he's supposed to.
All right, Matt. What's going to be your best bet on the early part of the card, and is it an all-weather race?
It's not an all weather race. I do think I'm sticking with my plan of going with race one every week. Not that this is the best race by any means. It's a pretty bad field. Um, but the horse I will go to in here, and I don't know the price you'll get on this one, but I like the 7 Colorful Baron, right? What sticks out to me is anytime you have a horse that's, 1 for 29 and has barely ever hit the board, but when you look and you say, hey, track and distance, has 2 races at the track and distance lifetime and it's got 1 win in 1 place. Hey, to me, that means this is what the horse wants to do, right? This is where this horse wants to go. And in class 5 racing, that probably means more than anything, right? 2 things that you want to see in class 5 are the ability to kind of show some pace, which I think this horse, can be near the front. You really don't want to be deep closing in class 5 until you get down into class 5. You can't pass horses and, wants that extra distance. So, like I said, I have no idea the price you'll get on this one, but in a field and not too many standouts, I think that was probably the most obvious play that stuck out in the early part of the card to me. So be going with that 7, and me love me some Blau Hewitson. So get ready for me to say some nice things after that one doesn't come in. But
I really tried to get to the 6, but I think the outside draw is going to be kind of tough. Um, so I ended up going elsewhere. But I like the 6 in the spot. Anytime I think that there's going to be a slow pace, I like to bet the speed horse. Um, I'm a sucker for speed, so I thought he was a little bit interesting, but I just think that is going to be kind of up against it with the draw out in the 9 post. We've seen this numerous times where um, the speed horse is drawn outside and at least one jockey makes it tough for that horse to cross over, and usually that's that's kind of enough there. Um, yeah, I ended up on the 4 Celestial Colors
Oh, you're
in
betting a
race
me
7.
horse. You're betting this horse. Oh my god.
Oh man, yeah, and this is a horse that last time out, I think got a little bit of a trouble trip. Was obviously drawn inside and just kind of ran evenly after the start. Now the horse is drawn on the outside part of the track, where I think is where you want to be, and yeah, I think there's no excuses for this horse this time up. Um, is stayed basically the same weight, only gained 1 pound here. Keeps Hugh Bowman aboard. Is getting the draw that you want to get on the straight. So you got 22 to 1 last time. I'm guessing you get less than half that here. But I thought the 4 Celestial Colors made a ton of sense in the spot. And that's going to be my best bet. I'm playing the post position game. I'm playing jockey staying aboard, and you had a little bit of trouble trip last time out. So, yep, Celestial Colors is going to be my pick.
You can, if you want to scroll back a long ways on Twitter, you can see me hitting the one bet that this horse has actually won the one race that it did manage to come in back last March. And actually, it's funny. I thought this horse had a lot of promise since then and was going to go on to a lot better things, and hasn't run a step since. So I'm with you. I think it's due.
I mean, I don't know. Like, this is kind of, we talked about this before, right? You see on my PPs, right? You can only see the last 5 races, but you see 4 kind of bad Happy Valley races, and then you see him get back to Sha Tin, and he runs a pretty good race. And once again, I don't know if this horse is just kind of causing his own trouble, but had a little bit of trouble there. I thought ran kind of evenly, and ran decent enough at a huge price. So now gets the favorable draw, keeps the same jock, who's a very good jock, who's winning at, I don't know, something like near 25% here in Hugh Bowman. So yeah, I thought that this is the setup, right? Like, this is like what you want. Uh, the horse that kind of had a bit of a rough trip last time out. Now, is the public going to see all that? Probably, or at least some I think the sharps are probably going to see that, especially with the draw. So we'll see what kind of price we get. We got 22 to 1 last time. I mean, let's see if we get a midway price between like 7 or 8 to 1, somewhere around there. But if I get double digits, I mean, I'd be ecstatic. But I like the 4 Celestial Colors in this spot.
Stuff.
And that's going to do it for us here on You've Got to Be Sha Tinning Me. Obviously, check us out at onthewronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. I am at Cherry Drank. Matt is at Slow and Steadied. He'd already plugged AM Wager, so click that link in our description. Sign up for AM Wager if you haven't already. There's a deposit bonus. It helps us out without you having to really do anything. Just bet through them. And yeah, let's have a good week, and go Giants.
Good luck, everybody.